Hey guys, Adam here with AmericanMuscle.com. Today we're taking a closer look at and fully installing the SR Performance height and dampering fully adjustable coilover kit available for the 2015 and newer Mustangs without Magna Ride suspension. You should be checking out this particular set of coilovers if you're looking for a budget-friendly coilover in the category, allowing you to fully adjust the height from anywhere from 1 to 3 inches, getting rid of that unsightly wheel gap from the factory, while also giving you the option to fully adjust 32 different ways the dampening of the front and rear. Now that'll allow you to soften or firm up the suspension depending on your personal preference. Now when it comes to adding a set of coilovers, this is definitely a step up from a simple lowering spring, giving you that full adjustability I just mentioned. May not be as involved as a complete airlift kit or an air suspension kit, but this is one of the most popular suspension components and suspension upgrades available in the aftermarket. This coilover kit here is going to allow you to lower your center of gravity, completely improving your handling and suspension, giving you a better cornering ability, decreasing body roll or excessive body roll, keeping your wheels planted on the ground a lot more, and keeping your vehicle leveled. It's also going to reduce excessive squatting upon hard launches, reduce excessive nosedive on hard braking. You're overall just completely revamping that suspension and handling. In addition to that, guys, just simply from an appearance standpoint, it makes your car look so much more aggressive, lowering that front and rear, getting rid of that wheel gap. Getting rid of the wheel gap is one of the nicest things you can do to these S550s. The body just loves it so much, and I think it looks so much better. I'm sure a lot of you guys agree. That's why you're watching this video. Now, when it comes to coilovers, especially this one in particular, you are getting something that is already pre-assembled right out of the box. You don't need a spring compressor. It is a direct bolt-on kit that even includes new caster camber plates to replace your factory's top strut mounts. Now, the caster camber plates will allow you to fully adjust and dial in your exact suspension geometry, making sure your caster, your camber, and your toe-in is exactly where you need it to be once you take it to the alignment shop after you have everything installed. Now, this particular kit includes upgraded monotube shocks and struts. It also includes a 448-pound front spring rate and a 470-pound rear spring rate, and it also includes all of the 32-way adjustable dampening measurements that you can make right at the top under the hood of that strut tower. Now when you adjust that, you can turn it to the left to soften your front suspension, turn it to the right to get it more firm, and again, that all depends on your driving style. If you're hitting the autocross, drag strip, or if you're doing some road racing, you may want to change that dampering along with the preload of the springs to adjust for that driving style. If you're just running a daily driver, you can leave the preload as is right out of the box because it's typically dialed into a good street car or daily driver. You can just adjust the softness or the firmness of the front and rear shocks as you wish to make things a little sportier. That's something I really like about the SR kit. It allows for some of the biggest drop in ride height in the category, and it also gives you some of the most adjustment as far as that dampening is concerned. Now, this kit does come in right around 900 bucks, making it the most budget-friendly coilover kit in the category. And it's also going to get 2 out of 3 wrenches on our install difficulty meter here, simply because it is a direct bolt-on and it doesn't require the spring compressor. There's no cutting, no welding, no drilling, none of that nonsense. It is that direct bolt-on. Now, there are a couple of things I want to mention before we do jump into that full install here, and I am going to walk you through every single step of the process, but know that once you get everything installed, it is going to take some time to dial in exactly where you want the adjustments to be as far as preload and as far as ride height. Making adjustments to the dampening is super simple. All you have to do is turn the knob under the hood. But dialing in the height and dialing in that preload is going to take some more trial and error. You may be putting your suspension together, throwing your wheels on, putting it on the ground, seeing how it looks, drive with it. You may be jacking it up, taking the wheels off and making adjustments further. And it might even take a couple of times of doing that to dial it in just right. You also want to make sure when you're talking about preload and ride height that your driver and your passenger side are dialed in to the exact same measurement on the front and exact same in the rear. In which case, I might recommend picking up a micrometer or something similar to measure the distance in that ride height on your front strut and your rear shock. And also, maybe you might want to do the same for the preload. Now, as far as preload, I know I've been saying that a couple of times throughout the video. Preload is essentially the amount of pressure or the amount of compression on the spring right on the vehicle without the load of the vehicle being put on it. So how much the spring is actually condensed when it's bolted up without being on the ground. That's going to determine a lot of the ride quality of your vehicle. If you have too much preload and it's way too tight, when you start to hit bumps in the road, if you're on rough terrain, you're going to feel it. It's going to be a lot harder of a suspension. But if you have too little preload, it might be way too bouncy. So there's definitely some things you want to dial in depending on your personal preference. As we get into things here, I want to note that it may take you upwards of 4 hours from start to finish to get the entire job complete and have everything dialed in. Of course, if you have better expertise and you have more experience, you might be able to tackle it in less time. Again, I'm going to walk you through every single step of the process. I'll show you how to make the adjustments to the height. I'll show you how to make adjustments to the preload, and I'll talk about the adjustments to the softness and firmness of the dampering under the hood as we go through the process. I'll even compare the stock option to the new coilovers as we do the front and as we do the rear. So what do you say I shut up and we get to it? Tools used in this install include an air tool and air gun, 3/8 impact gun, a variety of extensions, 3/8 and 1/2 inch ratchets, 10, 13, 15, 17, 18, and 19 millimeter deep 3/8 sockets, 18, 19, 21, and 15/16 deep 1/2 inch sockets, 6 millimeter Allen key or socket, 17, 19, 3/4, and 24 millimeter wrenches. Also recommended but not required would be an 18 and 19 millimeter ratcheting wrench, finally a torque wrench, and a hammer. Also recommended, but not on the table obviously, would be a hydraulic floor jack and some floor jack stands if you're working on the ground. And if you have access to a lift, pole jacks will do the trick too. First step here, guys, of course, is to grab an impact gun. We're gonna get our wheel out of the way at the front end. We'll start uninstalling our front suspension. When we're done that, we'll work on the rear. So what you're gonna do now is take your 21 socket and remove the factory lug nuts if you have the stock wheel. If not, grab your key or whatever lug nut key that you need to get your aftermarket wheels off and take care of it. All right, next step, what you're gonna do here is remove this brake line, this ABS line that's hooked onto the side of your factory strut up top here. And there's one behind the spindle that might be difficult to see, but if you just follow this down, it's clipped again down below. So what you're gonna do is basically just pry this guy off. You can use a panel removal tool, but if you push up from the bottom, just wiggle it back and forth, it'll disconnect. And then do it again on the bottom. Next step, what you need is a pole jack if you're working on a lift like we are, but if you're working on the ground, grab your hydraulic jack, and you're gonna jack it up right underneath the lower control arm where it meets the spindle. Just take off a little bit of that pressure. You don't need to jack it up too much. Just jack it up so it touches, and then a little more to relieve some pressure. After that, what you're gonna do is remove the sway bar end link from the strut. That's back up top here. Now you're gonna need an 18 millimeter deep socket. I'm gonna use air tools for this one just because you'll need a little bit more torque to get that guy to spin off. Once we get that off, we'll be able to work on the bottom of our strut. So I'm gonna use our impact gun here, our air tool. I've got an 18 deep socket. Let's get this guy off. All right, so once we get that off, I'm actually just gonna take the nut and thread it right back on here so we don't lose it. All right, next up, what we're gonna do is remove the 2 bolts holding the factory strut to the spindle. Now it's gonna take a 21 millimeter deep socket to get the bolt heads off and a 24 millimeter wrench to hold the nuts on the opposite side. All right, so we got that all the way loose. I'm gonna grab this nut off. Now we can get the bolts out. Now, because our second bolt is really hard to get to, it's blocked by the caliper on the back side. We can't get a hammer in there to get the bolt out. What we're gonna have to do is remove our caliper and bracket. Now, some models may not need to do this depending on how your system is set up. In our case here, we are gonna have to remove our caliper bracket combo to gain access to the back of that bolt. Now, before we do that, I'm actually just gonna thread a lug nut right on here so the rotor doesn't start moving and fall off. You're just gonna thread one of your lug nuts all the way back, get it nice and tight, the way your rotor stays in place. I'm gonna grab a 15 millimeter socket and I'm gonna remove the 2 bolts holding on the caliper bracket and just pull this guy off in one piece. We'll hammer out that bolt, finish up our assembly, and then put this guy back on. All right, so what I'm gonna do is switch over to a cordless impact and remove both of these bolts here, 2 15 millimeters. There we go, and then one on the top. All right, so we got this bolt out here. What you'll do next is just take the caliper. I'm gonna set it up here. We're gonna lower our car down a little bit, and then we're gonna properly support this so it doesn't put any tension on the brake lines. From there, we just gained access to this bolt, so we'll be able to get that guy out. All right, so now that we have access to this bolt here, I'm gonna grab my hammer, support the top of this rotor so it doesn't pop down. We're just gonna get this guy out of the way. So as you can see, our strut comes free. Now we can lower this down and tackle the 3 bolts at the top under the hood. We've got our car back down a little bit, hood popped, exposing the strut tower. We have 3 nuts holding on the factory strut, and that's all that's left. Once we get these 3 out of the way, we're gonna have our hand down there to catch it. We're gonna pull it out in one piece. So grab a 15mm deep socket and remove the 3 bolts. All right, so when you get down to the 3rd one, just make sure you have a hand down here on the strut. See that guy start to lower down. Pull it off in one piece. All right, now we can set this aside. Now we have one more step for the uninstall, and that's removing completely our sway bar end link. We have new sway bar end links in the kit, so let's get this guy out of the way before we get started on assembly or comparing the 2 kits. So what we're gonna do now is take an 18mm deep socket and a ratchet. This is gonna make life a little easier. Put the ratchet on the back side where the nut is. You're also gonna take a 17mm wrench and hold this nut collar that's here to keep it from spinning. If we just go like this, that thing's gonna spin all day long and it's not gonna come off. So grab a 17, hold that collar down, and let's just work these guys back together. And as we do this, it loosens up and it'll come right out. All right, before we get to the very end here, I'm gonna take these guys out of place. You should be able to get the nut off by hand. Remove this guy completely and set it aside. All right, so let's take a look at our factory strut assembly along with the factory sway bar end link, comparing it to the SR Performance height and damping adjustable coilover kit. Now this one here, next to it, you'll see the adjustable new sway bar end link included in the kit, just to give you that proper side-by-side. Now the factory option here is, perfectly fine from the factory for what it is, but if you're looking to get that sportier feel with complete adjustability, up to 3 inches in ride height adjustment, this coilover is gonna be the way to go. And just simply laying on the ground, we have it adjusted to about 3 inches lower than our factory strut assembly. Now I'm gonna quickly explain how that even operates, because obviously the factory one isn't adjustable, so this might be new to you guys. Now the adjustable coilover kit here basically comes with 3 adjustable collars found on the shaft of the strut itself. These collars are gonna give you that complete adjustability. The tool included in the kit hooks straight onto the bottom collar, which you would use to loosen up. When you loosen this guy up, it allows you to take the top 2 collars and basically make the strut body shorter, lowering your ride height. It's really as simple as that. So as you loosen this guy up, you would essentially be twisting this collar, making this body shorter. And that's essentially how that works. Now, as far as the dampening adjustment, that's at the top here of your strut body. Right up here at the top here under the hood, there's a little knob. And that knob is basically gonna go counterclockwise or clockwise to soften or firm up that dampening. So if you really want that sporty, stiffer ride, you have that on the fly right under the hood. Just turn that adjustment knob in the direction of your choosing, and it is labeled there, so it's easy to comprehend. That's all happening on your new coilover that you would not otherwise have on your factory strut, as you are very well aware. Now, as you adjust the ride height, your sway bar end link can only do so much from the factory. As you can see, it is a fixed position sway bar end link. You're gonna need that adjustment that you would get from this new guy. So this guy wouldn't be able to lower your vehicle. You'd have some wacky suspension handling, but with this, you have full adjustment over both sides. And the same sort of theory happens here. Essentially, you have a collar that you can loosen up, twist as you need, and tighten it back down to get the height that you want. You can do that on both sides. So what you'd basically do is unbolt it, loosen up the collar, twist it to whatever height you need to adjust for that, tighten down the collars, and bolt it right back up. It's pretty simple to use. In order to do that, you'll be using your wrench the appropriate size. So it's really simple. You'll just use very simple hand tools to get this done, and the adjustment tool needed to make that happen on the shaft is included in the kit. Otherwise, you're looking at the exact same quality materials. You do have a mono tube design on your new strut, nice gloss black finish. The coils are actually finished in white, which is pretty exclusive to the SR Performance setup. And then finally at the top, you have new caster camber plates to make adjustment for the ride height. So when you start slamming your vehicle or lowering your vehicle, you wanna make sure your camber is in line. Camber plates are included and pre-assembled out of the box. as opposed to the factory solid or fixed strut top or strut mount. When you're done the install, of course, it's recommended you take it to an alignment shop to make sure your entire suspension is aligned properly. That's definitely a must. Keep that in mind when you're finished this install. You want to account for that by the end of it. Now what we're going to do next is basically take our front suspension, our new suspension, and start installing it, starting with our sway bar end link. We'll put this on the sway bar, then install our new strut, attach everything, and move on to the rear. Step number one here for the install, we're going to start with our sway bar end link, our new adjustable one in the SR Performance kit. You want to make sure you're using this guy, not the stock one. What we're going to first off do is take a look at one of these bottoms. Now top and bottom doesn't matter, they're both the exact same. So we're going to pick one here. Basically what we're going to do is tighten up this collar, because as far as adjustability goes, we can do it from one side. We just want to make sure it's not bottomed out, which it's not. We got some good threading on the bottom here. So what I'm going to do is basically just twist this to tighten that guy up. At the end, we can come back with a wrench and make sure that's really secure. We just don't want that flexing yet. This top guy we can leave loose because that'll, adjust for the height once we have our strut in place. So we don't have to worry about that. We're going to take the bottom portion here, put that through our sway bar, and tighten down the new nylon lock nut from the back. All right, so it only goes on so far by hand. Next, what we're going to do is take our ratchet and socket and tighten that guy down. All right, so now I'm going to take my 3/8 ratchet and my 19mm deep socket. We're going to tighten this up from the back while holding the front here. Now, if you get to a point where this starts spinning, there is a very small little collar there. You can throw a wrench on there, maybe about 17mm. Ours looks like it's not spinning at the moment, so we're just going to be able to tighten this down straight from the back. All right, so we're getting really tight here. Just want to get that tightened down. All right, now we can move on to installing the strut itself. All right, so next up here, we're going to start installing our strut. Now this strut, our front coilover assembly here, there's a couple of things I want to make note of. Number one, I like to tighten up that bottom collar so the bottom doesn't have room for adjustment. This is about where we're going to start our install and see if we like that height. Later we can come back and adjust the height using that tool. So I'm going to leave that be for now. We've just got this bottom guide tightened up so this doesn't rotate. The top caster camber plate has pre-installed strut nuts. Now these are going to replace the factory ones that we took off earlier under the hood. So what you want to do is make sure you're removing these and not reusing the factory ones. We're going to use these guys. All right, and finally, this guy only installs really one way. So you want to make sure you're lining up the triangle up here to the holes through the top of the strut tower. All right, so we got these guys off. I'm just going to place them right up here where they're not going to fall into the engine bay. Now what we can do is lift this guy up, set it into place, and tighten it up from the top. All right, take those nuts that we just took off, thread this guy in, that'll hold it in place. Take the other ones and tighten them down as well. And then grab your 15 socket and get them snug. And now you can see that the dampering adjustment knob is up top here. This is where you'll soften or firm up that suspension. Counterclockwise is going to soften it, clockwise is going to get it harder or firmer. Next, what we're going to do is lift up our hub assembly to line up the spindle to the strut itself. Using those factory knurled bolts, put those guys through. Now you can use a jack for this if you're working on the ground, it might be easier. We're up in the air, so it's a little easier for me to just lift up on it, rotate, and line her up. All right, once you get one to catch, just push that guy all the way through. All right, same thing for the other one. All right, now for the bottom one, we can just push and pull on our hub assembly and slide that guy through. All right, now I'm gonna grab a hammer and just tap them all the way in. It does have a knurled bolt head side, so it might take a little bit of effort to get that through. All right, all the way seated on the top. And on the bottom. All right, so now we can take the factory nuts, thread those guys on. Same thing on the bottom. All right, so next what we're gonna do is break out our torque wrench and torque down these two nuts to 184 foot-pounds. All right, now at this point, we're gonna connect the top end of our new sway bar end link from SR Performance. We're gonna take off that top nut to begin with. And what you'll do is you can just line this guy up to the mounting point, and you can see it's pretty short. So what we're gonna do is just loosen up this collar and twist this guy to make it a little bit taller, just until we get it matched up. Just a little bit more. Drop that collar back down. Get it nice and snug right now. We'll tighten it back down in a minute. Bring that sway bar end link backwards. You can push up on that stud to get this guy to line up, put it through. Looks like it could probably be a little bit taller. What we'll do is loosen that collar up. Could be a trial and error process. Same thing at the bottom if you need to. You can loosen this guy up and tighten the collar. All right, so we're gonna try again. Bring her back through. There you go. Take that nut that we just removed and put it back on through the front. Now we can tighten it down. All right, grab a 19mm socket and tighten that guy down. Now what we can do is take 19mm wrenches and tighten down these two collars. Last couple of steps here, grab that ABS line that we disconnected in the beginning. Top guy is gonna go to the opposite side of where your sway bar end link is. Clips right in there. And then on the body, between the two bolts, there's another hole for the secondary clip. This one's a little bit tighter, but it does fit in, put a little elbow grease in there. All right, at this point, last step here, of course, we had to remove our caliper and the caliper bracket. So we're gonna put that back in place on our rotor. All right, so we're gonna slide that bracket back into place and use those two factory bolts to tighten it back down. So now we got our 15 socket, we can tighten these guys down. So we got our front coilover on our driver's side installed. I want to take you guys through the process of actually adjusting the height now that it's installed on the vehicle. Now, of course, before we jump into that, you want to repeat this exact same process on the passenger side. Once you have that taken care of, let's talk about ride height. Now, you'll have two spanner tools included in the kit. These are going to be what you're going to be using to adjust your ride height and your preload if you want to adjust preload on car. So when you have the vehicle jacked up and you have your wheel out of place, taking the load off of it, what you're gonna do is take the smaller of the two wrenches, take the smaller guy, we're gonna put the larger one aside. The small guy is gonna focus on adjusting the smaller collars on the strut body. There are 3 in total, 2 smaller guys, and the larger one directly under your spring. Now, we're not gonna talk about that larger one just yet. Let's focus on the 2 little guys. When it comes to adjusting your height, what you'll need to do is break this one loose at the bottom and just bring it up a little bit to remove some of that load. So let's do that first. What you'll basically do is hook this tool around the little teeth around that collar. We're gonna break this guy loose. It might take a couple of turns. Once you have that loose enough, you should be able to do this by hand. Let's just bring it up. Now, if we want to adjust our height, we'll focus on the upper small collar. We'll take the same tool, and if we want to raise our height, we'll rotate this to the right. And as you can see, as I rotate it, it's spinning the entire strut body. It's making the strut body taller. So right is going to raise it, and if we wanted to lower our height, we would go the opposite way to the left. So right raise, left lower. Pretty easy to remember, right? So what we want to do here is just lower this a little bit, bring it down, giving us one of the maxed out ride heights, about 3 inches of lowering there. Once you dial in exactly where you want this guy to be, we're going to tighten up the bottom one to keep it from spinning anymore. We don't want it to spin on its own when the vibration goes through the shaft, so what we're going to do is tighten up the bottom collar so it doesn't move by itself. Grab that same tool, once you dial in your height, tighten this guy down. Now, when we're talking about the larger of the 2 tools, we'll be using these 2 together to adjust preload. Now, before we get into this, if you guys are not taking this car to the track, if you're not using your car for autocross, drag racing, you probably won't have to touch preload at all. Manufacturers are typically really good at adjusting preload right out of the box, set for pretty much a street car. So if you're driving a daily driver, you probably don't need to work with preload. It is set for your car's weight, it is set for the street. Out of the box, you'll be good to go. But if you're adjusting it for autocross, drag racing, so on and so forth, adjusting preload can definitely be beneficial. So if you are gonna play with preload, what you'll do is take both of these tools, we're gonna crack this guy loose. So you go for the smaller of the bottom and the larger one on top, and you'll basically break them loose and lower this guy down. From there, we can take the larger tool and spin this top collar, which is going to adjust the preload. Now, of course, the preload is how much tension or compression is on the spring before the load of the vehicle is on it. It's preload. So the more preload, the tenser it'll be, the less preload, the softer it'll be. So depending on how you're using your car, you may be adjusting preload. We're not going to really jump into it, but I did want to just show you guys how that will work on this coilover. Once you take care of the preload, if you are, spin this guy back up, take both tools and tighten them down together. So you'll really be going against each other. All right, just like that. And when you tighten those two together and the bottom one's tight, this guy is not moving at all when your car is on the road. So what we're gonna do now is throw a wheel back on and move on to the rear. We've got our vehicle in the air, wheels out of place. What we're gonna do is take a pole jack, since we're using a lift, and support our rear subframe. Now to lower this thing down to get the spring out, we do have to unbolt the subframe on both sides. We're gonna lower that down just enough to squeeze our spring out, and then we can put our new spring back into place. So pole jack is gonna go right under the subframe. Put this guy right back here. And of course, if you're working on the ground in the driveway, you just want to put your hydraulic jack here as well. You don't want to use a jack stand, you want to use a hydraulic jack to make sure that you can lower it to get the spring out. All right, so we're just supporting that guy there. Now we can get our shock out of place. All right, so grab an 18mm socket. We're going to go to the top of our shock and remove these two from the body. Next up, we're gonna tackle our sway bar end link. We're gonna remove it from the lower control arm, not from the sway bar itself. So we're gonna remove it right here. You're going to need an 18mm wrench. I'm gonna use a ratcheting wrench to make life easier. And I'm gonna also use an Allen key. Now the Allen key is gonna hold this thing and keep it from spinning. If you try to use an impact gun, an air tool, probably not gonna be enough torque. It's just gonna spin the bearing. So you'll need this Allen key and the ratchet, or the wrench, to get this guy off. So hold that here and work that guy out. All right, now what I like to do is disconnect it, bring that guy out. I like to just thread the nut back on just so we don't lose it. All right, next what we're gonna do is disconnect this line here, the brake line. It's connected to the sway bar and this bracket here using a 10mm bolt. Let's get that guy off. Now the reason we're taking this guy off is so that when we lower this to remove our spring, it's not gonna pull and put tension on the brake line. All right, next step here, we're gonna remove the two bottom shock bolts underneath of our lower control arm. Grab a 15mm socket, and we'll get these guys out. And from there, you can pull your shock out of place and set it aside. All right, next step, guys, we have to start unbolting or loosening up the bolts on our subframe. Now, when you do this, make sure you have the rear subframe supported by either a floor jack or a pole jack if you're on a lift. Now on the left side of our driver's side suspension on our subframe here, there are two 13mm bolts and then a larger subframe bolt to the right of it. We're gonna loosen, but not completely remove, these two 13mm bolts. All right, next is this guy directly next to it. So this is actually gonna get completely removed. We're gonna need a 21mm socket for this guy. All right, so that just removes this plate here. And again, we don't need to completely remove this side, so it'll still hang down there. Take this bolt completely out. All right, so now on the opposite side toward the rear of our vehicle, we have one more of those 21mm blue bolts here. We're gonna take this completely off, and again, this is the last bolt, so make sure your subframe is properly supported before getting this guy off. We still have our pole jack in place, 21mm socket. We are gonna use an extension to go right past this exhaust and get this guy off. At this point, we're gonna start lowering our pole jack to remove our spring. Now you wanna exercise extreme caution because this is under a lot of load. So do it very slowly, very cautiously, and once it relieves that pressure, you can get your spring out. All right, so you can see our spring start to decompress. Got a lot of play in this now. So what we can do, bring it down a little bit more, drop this guy down, start to work our spring off. Now we may need to pull downward on it in order to get it out from around that spring perch. All right, so maybe a little bit lower. All right, from there, let's get our spring out. All right, now once our spring's out of the way, your isolator may still be sitting in the lower control arm. You can just reach in there, pull that isolator out. So we got our rear spring and shock off of the driver's side of our 2018 Eco, and it's on the ground here next to our SR Performance. We do have a couple of things we want to transfer over from our factory equipment to our new SR kit here, and I just wanted to make a quick mention of the adjustability on the rear end here. Looking at the spring here has this perch. This perch is going to replace your factory upper isolator that you see here. So instead of popping this guy off and transferring it over, we're gonna use this instead. This will mount right into that perch, and it has a rubber gasket or isolator that insert into here so you don't have any metal on metal contact. It also has two adjustable rings similar to the front. Now this white spacer here is gonna go between the spring and this perch, again, to prevent metal on metal. It's got a larger collar and then a smaller collar. These are gonna be used to adjust your preload. Again, just like the front, I won't go back over that, but again, you wanna use this and adjust this if you wanna make changes to that preload. And what we're gonna do is just leave it as is right out of the box and install that spring just like this. So the spring in the rear will sit like that. Now it doesn't come with a bottom or lower isolator, so we will transfer over this old one to our new spring. If your isolator on the bottom is looking a little worse for wear, it's a good time to pick up a new one. You don't want to be reusing any crappy isolators because once they do completely go out, it's going to cause a little bit of a rough ride. You'll definitely hear some clunking or squeaking noises at the rear end, so you don't want to have to take it apart anyway in the future just to fix a crappy isolator. So pick a new one up now if it's looking pretty bad. Ours is looking really good, and given that these are S550s, I imagine that they haven't been on the road for too many years, so they should be looking pretty good, but it's definitely worth mentioning. Going over to the shock, there is one thing we do have to transfer over from our factory shock to our new adjustable shock, and that's gonna be this top mounting bracket. Now this guy is gonna pop off by a little screw at the top here. The cap comes out, screw comes off, transfer it over, and we do have a new nylon lock nut that'll help us secure it. That shock here is gonna help adjust your ride height. Now, just like the front, you would loosen up this singular collar on the bottom, loosen that guy up. You can rotate the entire shaft, you can make it shorter, you can make it longer. It is suggested to make it about the height that you need to install it at, which does extend a little bit more. So you want to make it a little taller, install it, and then make adjustments later on once it's installed. So that's what we're going to do. We've got it at about the height that we want here. I'm just going to tighten that collar up at the bottom just by hand. All right. The first thing we're going to do is transfer over that bracket from the top of our shock to our new SR Performance. All right, so what we're going to do now is pop off this black cap. We're gonna grab a 15mm deep socket, and we're gonna remove that nut on the top here. All right, break that guy loose. Now we don't need to use this nut again, so I'm gonna set that down. Our new shock comes with one. So we're gonna set this aside. We also don't need the dust cover because our new one already has that installed. Bring up our new shock. I'm gonna pop off this nylon lock nut, put the bracket back on over, and install this guy. Now this is an 18mm nut, so we're gonna have to swap that socket. Now we can tighten this down. Last step, once you have that guy installed, grab that factory black cap. That snaps right back on. That just helps protect any dust from getting in there. So we've got that solid. What we're gonna do next is install our spring. Kicking things off in the rear, grab that upper spring perch. Make sure that this black gasket is inserted into that cup there. we're gonna install this onto that perch. Now you should have a set screw either installed here or included in the kit. You're gonna put that screw through once it's in place, grab your Allen key and tighten that guy down. From here, you'll grab your Allen key in the kit, grab your set screw, and you're just gonna tighten it down just using this to hold it in place. Next step, grab that lower isolator again. We're gonna put this guy in place. What you're gonna do is basically just rotate this in that seat until it hits the stopper. It does go in a certain way. This raised lip here on this side is gonna go toward the inside of the vehicle, and you'll feel it because you won't be able to rotate it. From there, you're gonna take your spring and make sure that this plastic isolator is sitting on the top where the flat side is. That's gonna be going upward. So this plastic piece will sit up against the inside of that collar. So let's put that in place. You're also gonna rotate the spring until it seats into that locking portion on the isolator. So there's a little wall on the isolator that's gonna rotate into and seat. All right, next step, what we're gonna do is just jack this up slightly until this meets this perch. We just want to make sure that this can align properly, so when we fully jack it up, when our shock is installed, we'll be able to make sure it's lined up. All right, so as I jack this guy up, I'm going to make sure I'm guiding that spring into position. All right, so we can see that that's lined up. We don't want to go all the way up just yet. We want to make sure we're leaving enough room to install our shock. So now what we're going to do is line up the bottom of our shock to the bottom of the lower control arm where those bolt holes are. Now, one thing you'll notice is this perch here on the bottom of our new shock does not have a welded on nut. There are nuts included in the kit, so you'll have to tighten them down separately. What we're going to do is put a bolt through, make sure it goes through the shock. We're going to grab one of the nuts in the kit. We're going to try to squeeze our hand in there to get it to tighten down. All right, so you really just reach over and put that nut into place, and then from here, we can tighten it down just a little to hold it in. Let's do the other one, and then we'll tighten them down. Next, we have to get these guys to line up to the holes on the chassis. Now, in order to do that, we're gonna have to jack up that subframe, get them to line up while pushing this up. We're gonna grab the factory bolts and put them through. All right, next up, grab a 19 socket and tighten these top two guys down. All right, now tightening these guys is gonna be a little bit trickier than it was uninstalling them because we have that separate nut on the top that we now have to hold. So we've got our ratchet and our 17mm socket, our deep socket, and we're gonna go in there and I'm gonna tighten the bottom one, or the farther one first. I'm gonna seat my ratchet on that and hold it from up here. Just make sure, I know it's tough to see, just want to get something in there to hold that nut. And then from the bottom, tighten this bolt down with a 15mm socket. All right, same thing for the other one. Now this one over here is a little bit easier to get to. Next, what we have to do is jack up the whole subframe and reconnect it to the frame. Now this can be a little bit tricky. You want to make sure you have your pull jack in place, which you should have had this entire process. We're going to jack that guy up slowly because, as you remember, we're putting all that pressure back on the spring. So you want to do it cautiously. Once you have it jacked up enough, you're going to take this big blue bolt and you're going to put it right through and tighten it down to that threaded hole in the frame. Now you don't need to tighten it all the way yet. Put it through, catch a couple of threads to hold it in place, then do it on the other side as well. Put this guy up a bit. I think we're in a pretty good place that this would catch. We're gonna put this guy up through, and I'm gonna start screwing this guy back in. All right, so that's this side. We just wanna make sure the other side is lined up as well. That's why you don't wanna tighten this all the way down. So it's holding, let's do this on the other. All right, so this looks actually pretty good. If this is shifted off a little bit, you'll have to redo the other side, move it yourself. So you really wanna take caution when using the subframe. Now what you wanna do is make sure you're lifting this plate up because you don't wanna forget this plate. And you're gonna put the bolt straight through and screw it into place. Now what you want to do is not tighten these bolts up yet. Jack it up so far that this is making complete contact with the frame. You don't want to force the contact by tightening this bolt down. Jack it up all the way first. All right, so we're making complete contact all the way around. Double check before you tighten this down that your spring is seated properly, and now we can tighten it up. All right, grab your 21 socket and tighten this guy down. Same thing on the other side. Last step here is going to be these two 13mm bolts all the way on the front side. Tighten those guys up. Next step is to reinstall our sway bar end link. Now in some cases you may be able, depending on the height of your shock, you may be able to just put this guy right back into position and tighten it down. If you're lowering it to the max, it's going to be pretty tight here. You may be able to just use brute force and push up on the sway bar to get it in. I can get it really close, but I just need just a little bit of extra help. If that's what you need as well, what we're going to do is take our pole jack off. If you're working on the ground, you can take off your floor jack, because we just don't need that anymore. Our suspension's buttoned up. So I'm taking the pole jack off, and what I'm going to do is actually use this guy to help me push up that sway bar. So the sway bar will actually help us get the end link into position. So I'm just going to put this guy right here. We're not going to put a ton of pressure, just a little bit to help us get it up there. All right. From here, what we're going to do is just remove this nut, slide the end link back into position now that we have the sway bar jacked up enough. And it is flexible, so you can angle it where you need to. So we just need a little bit more help. Push this guy up. Right back in. Now before we remove that jack, I'm going to put this nut back on. Now what we have to do is grab our ratcheting wrench and our Allen key, and we're going to tighten that guy up before we remove this. All right, so if you remember correctly, we have our ratcheting wrench here. Allen key holds it in place so it doesn't keep spinning. We're going to tighten it down. All right, now if you loosened up the top one, tighten that down as well. I'm just gonna double check ours. It's probably just a little loose. We cracked it loose earlier. So I'm just gonna tighten this guy up as well. All right, last step here, we wanna make sure we're putting back our brake line onto this bracket. If this bracket is not rotated upward, you wanna make sure you're loosening this guy, rotating it, tightening back down, just to make sure it's in position, because as you can see, it's cut a certain way to go around that bolt. So that's what we're doing here. We're going to take this bolt off, and now we can tighten that guy down, put it back in, and secure it into place. Grab your 10mm socket and tighten it down. At this point, guys, dial in your suspension preload and height on your rear end with the spring perch that's adjustable with the two collars, and your shock collar as well. Once you dial that down, make sure those locking collars are completely tight using those spanner wrenches. Repeat everything you just saw on the other side, and you're good to go. Well guys, that's gonna wrap up my review and full install walkthrough for the SR Performance height and dampering fully adjustable coilover kit, available for the 15 and newer Mustangs without MagneRide. If you wanna check this kit out, you can do so for yourself right here exclusively at AmericanMuscle.com.